Hello, everybody, and welcome. I am Danita Zanrè, and I'm happy to be here with you, coming to you from sunny Italy, from the e-commerce business school. And I'm happy to tell you today a little bit about effective strategies for virtual assistant success. And I am excited to be here with InventoryLab to celebrate them and their 10 years of success in this industry. So let's just get started and talk about um, how we can incorporate virtual assistants into our Amazon businesses. Okay, so what we're going to be covering today, very briefly, is what is a virtual assistant, right? And a discussion on tasks that can be outsourced, the biggest challenges you might have in working with virtual assistants, and tips on advertising for and interviewing a VA. So let's just jump right in and get started here. Oh, and successfully working with your VA. Oh, there's another topic. There you go. So, what is a virtual assistant? Well, a virtual assistant is a contractor who works for you, but it's not local to your location. So, you may rarely or never be in the same room with your virtual assistant. They can be from anywhere, across town, in another state, in another country. Virtual assistants from outside the US are often more cost effective than US assistants, but we have both. We have assistants who are both um, outside of the United States and in the United States in our Amazon business. Okay, so what tasks do you think that you can outsource to a virtual assistant? I'm asked this frequently. What kinds of things can I get off of my plate? Well, surprisingly, you can get quite a bit off of your plate and pass it on to a virtual assistant when you're ready. So let's talk about those. Here are some possible virtual assistant tasks that you could outsource. For example, you may subscribe to lead lists and want a VA to vet those lead lists, those leads for you before you purchase them. You might actually have sourcing VAs who source online arbitrage leads for you. You might have sourcing VAs who do wholesale leads for you, VAs who evaluate private label products for you, do replen sourcing, might have an import specialist if you're doing a private label item that's being manufactured overseas. Some Amazon specific account management tasks you might pass on to a VA could be a Seller Central admin, someone who really understands Seller Central and can handle all of those day-to-day tasks that pop up in Seller Central for you. You might have a VA do some inventory management for you, managing your repricer. Supposedly those things are automatic and set it and forget it, but let me tell you, we still manage our repricers. Managing returns. How do we deal with the returns we have on Amazon? And managing reimbursements, making sure that Amazon is reimbursing us for the things that we are eligible to be reimbursed for. You might have VAs that do more business management for you. For example, they may actually do the purchasing for you or bookkeeping. A lot of times people think, well, that's not something I would have a VA do. We have had some very successful VAs be our bookkeepers who are not in the United States. So that's something that is possible for you to do. Our accountant is in the United States, but our bookkeeper just needs to understand bookkeeping. And we've had some very good administrative types of VAs who do some financial work for us. You may have VAs who order your replenishables for you on a routine basis. Or you may have a big enough VA team that you have VAs who are actually managers who are managing the team for you. And so all of those things are very possible when you're hiring virtual assistants. So how do you go about getting a VA? Well, there are a number of different sites that you can go to that you can advertise for, or they say post a job listing. I'm old enough that I think about it as being advertising because we used to put ads in the newspaper when we wanted to hire somebody, right? So when I talk about hiring a VA, I usually talk about our job ad, but many people just call that a job listing. But when you get ready to make that listing or make that offer that you want when you're hiring a virtual assistant, you need to make sure that you're hiring strategies are very clear, and that your VA can be successful because they know exactly what you want from the job. So you need to write down exactly what you want your virtual assistant to do. And then you need to use some key terms that are important for the job. And I'll show you a couple of examples here in a minute about that. Um, know how many hours you want your VA to work. Most VAs are not looking for casual part-time work, a couple of hours here. That's more of a gig worker, and we're really looking for someone who's a part-time staff member for us when we're hiring VAs. So know how many hours you want the VA to work so you can be very clear when you are advertising for your VA for that. Also, differentiate between requirements and nice to haves, right? There are some things you absolutely want this person to be able to do for you. Stress that in your job listing so that there are no questions whether or not this person will be um, uh, qualified to do what you want them to do. And I like to add an attention to detail task when they respond. I don't know if you've ever heard this story. I love this story about Van Halen, the rock group, right? They had a very interesting contract. One of the things in their contract was um, M&Ms in the green room, but no brown M&Ms. You know, a lot of people have interesting things in their contracts. Maybe you want flowers in the green room, or maybe you want a mic check done at a certain time when you're talking with musicians. But they had this really odd requirement: no brown M&Ms, but they wanted M&Ms in the green room. And their reasoning was this: if they walked into the green room and there were brown M&Ms in the bowl, they would know that they had to check everything. They have to check the lighting. They have to check the sound. They have to check all of the set, because if they had missed that detail, they will have missed a lot of other things. So one of the things that I do when I'm hiring a VA is I'll say, reply to this message and put the word blue in the title. When you hire for a VA, when you advertise for a VA, you may get hundreds of resumes within a day or two of each other. It's really easy. It's really nice to be able to have a way to weed out the people who didn't even read the application, right? Didn't even read the job posting. So add a little attention to detail task when they respond to make sure that they're paying attention to you. That's one of my tips. Okay, so here's some examples. If we were doing, for example, a product sourcing VA, I want someone to find products for me. I might ask for these things in my job requirements. I want an experienced virtual assistant to do Amazon online arbitrage product sourcing, right? They must know how to use research tools like AZ Insight or Keepa. Notice that's a must. Knowledge of software tools like Tactical Arbitrage, OA X-Ray, or Source Mogul is a plus. It could be nice to have, right? They must be able to work part-time for a block of 4 hours, and English fluency, both in verbal and written communication required. So you have some musts, you have some nice to be's, and you tell them what you're looking for. So be very specific when you're making your job posting. Then comes time to interview your VA. And there'll be some things that are very important for you to pay attention to in the interview. Have a set of questions ready for the interview. First of all, one of my important tips when I'm talking to people about interviewing is remember that this is a job interview. Sometimes people have this idea that because they're hiring someone maybe over the internet or outside of the U.S. or it's a virtual assistant and not an employee, they have a tendency to think that you don't have the same kind of requirements for hiring, but you really do. It's the same kind of requirements as if you were just doing a job, right? Any job, hiring for any kind of a position. So make sure you have a set of questions ready for the interview. Do a face-to-face video call. We always do a face-to-face video call. We never hire via email or chat. We have to see who we're hiring in order to get a real good feel for whether or not this is a real person, and also just how do we work our personalities seem together? Because you will be working with this person, even if it's long distance, right? Ask open-ended questions and let them talk. Don't just make yes and no questions. Ask things that they can expound on and tell you a little bit about them and their experience. Clearly tell them you will be testing them in order to get the job, because we do actually test when we're doing online arbitrage, for example. We test our VAs before we give them jobs. Let them know you'll work closely with them as you train them, and ask the VA if they're working with any other clients doing the same task that you need them for. That doesn't disqualify them, but it lets you know whether or not you have employer competition going on, okay? And ask if they are familiar with the tools you require in your business. It's also really important to establish a working culture with your new VA. Require your VA to work in blocks of time. They can't just casually work an hour here, an hour there. Make sure that they are working in blocks of time. Require that your VA has some overlap working the same hours as you do so that you can communicate with them in real time when needed. And your VA must check in daily. I'm here, I'm working. Your VA should check out daily with an end of day report. This is what I accomplished today. This is what time I stopped working. This is what, this is where I am on the task list that needs to be done for the day. And then we have video meetings weekly or as otherwise needed, but I like to have at least one video meeting a week with our VA team. And if your VA team is one, you still should be having a video meeting with your VA during the week. And we chat daily. We use Slack, but you could use Skype or whatever. We chat daily, especially while we're in the middle of training. We do need to have open communication about holidays, sick time, emergencies, and internet or power outages, especially if your VA lives in a location that is prone to internet and power outages, so that you can have some way to communicate with them when necessary. If their home computer isn't working, can they get to a cafe, or do they have phone cell coverage that can at least send you a message? Those kinds of things. Okay. I also like to set my VAs up for success, right? Communicate the vision for the business. We set up access to Seller Central and other software we need. We provide the email accounts. We provide the Chrome extensions for sourcing and shopping. We provide a VPN if necessary. So make sure that your VA has all the tools that they need in order to manage your account efficiently. I also want to make sure that we empower our VAs to succeed with clear direction of tasks and expected results. And then we add tasks to our virtual assistant as they show their ability to grow in our business. Start them off small and move them to larger tasks as they show that they are capable of doing so. It's really important when you have multiple VAs to cross-train, so that when one is not available, someone else can do that job. It's a really important thing in our businesses to make sure that there's at least two people who know how to do every function in our business, so that we're not stuck if someone's out. And when I say two people, ultimately it ends up being three people, because I also know all of the things that need to be done in our business and can jump in as needed. But part of the reason for hiring is to take some of that pressure off of myself. Oops. Let your VA know mistakes. Mistakes happen. We're all human. When we have mistakes, I like to let them know that that's okay. I also like to let them know that when they make some mistakes, that really it's on me. I maybe didn't do the training well enough for them. I wasn't clear enough in the instructions as to what I wanted from them. Let the VA know that we're also willing to own up to our mistakes and help them when things aren't going as well as they could. Okay. So how do we have continued success with our virtual assistants? You know, I think it's really important to get to know them, their families, their reasons for being a virtual assistant. We have weekly meetings, as I say, to go over all of the things that are important for the business, but we always end up talking about what's happening in our days, what's happening in our lives, what's happening with our families. Knowing their motivations helps us help them. What goals are they working on? Do they have personal goals? I have one VA who loves to play the guitar, and he tells me about what he's been doing with different guitar licks and learning new songs. It's really interesting to talk to our VAs and find out what they do that is really important. And what kind of business goals do they have? Many times they have goals that are um, important to our businesses. They might want to help streamline something that we're doing. They see how they could be of benefit to our company. And they'll tell me, we've been working on trying to come up with a better way to do purchasing or whatever it is that they're looking at. So find out what the goals your VAs are working on so that you can help them achieve those goals as well. Communicate your business successes, and I should have put in here, and setbacks, right? We actually have a monthly meeting with our VAs where we go over what our goals were for the month before, whether we met those goals, and what we're planning on doing for the future. So by bringing the VA into the business and making them feel a certain connection with the business, they want us to succeed even more. So it's really important to communicate with your VA that your business is doing well, or when you're having difficulties, what we might need to do to turn things around. Communication is really key when you're working with virtual assistants. If you have more than one VA, I recommend that you have them communicate with each other. Our VAs chat with each other in our Slack channels. I see them talking about their families, in threads about the Slack, in our Slack channels. They're also talking about challenges they're having with a particular task. They help each other with the tasks. They get together for their own meetings. I give them access to a Zoom account so that if one is having difficulty doing a particular task, another one can jump in and show them how to do it. And also that way, if something is going on with one where they're having internet access problems or power outages, maybe one of the other VAs has that knowledge and can let me know that someone is out for the day due to some problems. So having your VAs communicate with each other can be very useful in your business. And you may even choose to incentivize your VA to motivate additional achievements, perhaps give bonuses for certain tasks that they complete, either ahead of time, or maybe that they meet or exceed their goals for a particular task. So that can be very useful to continue the success with your virtual assistant. But one of the really important things for their success is to track their progress and let them know, have some straight talk if there are performance issues. It really doesn't do any good to let your VAs continue to have problems without you letting them know that you've seen there are problems and that you want to help them succeed, because we all want to succeed in our business, and their success will definitely reflect on our success. And thank them often. I thank my VAs every day for doing such a good job, for being attentive to my business, for showing up on time, for having a cheerful attitude. Thank your VAs frequently, and they will be happy. Okay. So what are some of the biggest mistakes I have seen and done when it comes to dealing with virtual assistants? Let's talk about that. One of the biggest mistakes I find in the beginning for people hiring VAs is that they don't obtain enough details in the interview. Treat it too much like a little talk and not like truly an interview where you are trying to find out what your VA can and cannot do for you. You accept the wrong candidate for the position. Sometimes we let emotions get involved, and someone just really needs that job, and we feel like that we can give them a chance, right? But if you accept the wrong candidate for the position, that can set you back weeks in your search for the right person. So be clear what you need, not only for the VA, but be clear in your own mind what you need in order to make a good decision when you're hiring. You may not provide your VA with clear directions. And if you don't provide them with clear directions, they can't do the job for you that you need them to do. So make sure that you are providing very clear directions. You don't know what hours your VA is working. That's a real tough one because things seem to be getting done, but you have no idea when they're working. So you don't know if it's okay to contact them. You don't know what time of day it is. Make sure you know what time of day it is where your VA is. But it's really important to have that check-in and check out so that you know when a VA is actually working for you. If you're not a good communicator and you're not keeping up communications with your VA, it can be very detrimental to your business. I've had clients who tell me, oh, well, there was nothing important to talk about this week, so we didn't have a meeting. After a few weeks of that, you've lost touch with your virtual assistants, and they may no longer feel it's necessary to meet with you. So they don't show up for meetings when you do call them. Make sure that you have really good communication with your VA and they know that you need to have, constant contact with them. Maybe you don't know how to train your VA well. And if that's the case, then you need to find someone in your staff or someone on your team who can train your virtual assistant. And if you're too forgiving for poor performance, that's a really big mistake. I know that I personally am one of those people who tries to give people another chance, another chance, another chance. But eventually we have to point out that there is a problem. And so I think the earlier you do that, the better. I will admit that I'm someone who tries to give people the benefit of the doubt. But as we talked earlier, have some straight talk and let them know that you realize that there's a problem and you want to help them so that you can all be successful. Okay. So now I just have a few final thoughts for you before we end this presentation to talk about how to incorporate virtual assistants into your Amazon business. When you are the bottleneck, it's time for a virtual assistant. A lot of our clients say, when will I know I'm ready for a virtual assistant? And it's pretty clear when you're not getting the job done, when it's you who is stopping, the cogs from turning in your business, then you need a virtual assistant. A VA can be huge in your business. When you think about automation, when you think about being able to leverage other people's time, leverage other people's processes. We leverage InventoryLab because InventoryLab is a process that allows us not to have to do all of that work ourselves. So a VA is part of your business automation, just as InventoryLab is, or your repricer, or some other software that you're using to manage your business. So having physical, actual people doing work for you can be a great boost for your automation. And if you have a VA who knows exactly what you need, that will save you time. Learn to choose VAs who think like you, and you will be able to duplicate yourself, and that helps you save time in your business. And an incentivized VA may surprise you with their performance. If you offer them a bonus, if they go beyond, you may find that they actually will go beyond for you. The relationship you create with a VA could evolve into long distant friendships or even what you consider extended family. I've had some VAs for years. I've had one since 2017. And it is a family relationship at this point that I feel with him. And I think that it's just like any other employment. You will find that you can make some great relationships in your businesses. And so you can make some great extended family relationships with your virtual assistants as well. And, Building a team of VAs is going to be necessary to scale your business to levels you cannot do by yourself. A lot of times there are many Amazon sellers who get into this business as kind of a solopreneur. We're doing this all on our own, and having someone else help you will scale your business faster than you could ever dream of doing it yourself. Okay, so that is all I have to tell you about VAs for today. I want to point out that the e-commerce business school has a number of programs that can help you with your VAs, and we have a conference special. You can get 50% off of your first month of our Ecom Exec mentorship. This is where we help you continue your business growth and development as an entrepreneur. And we focus a lot on implementing standardized systems and processes to manage your business and your team of VAs. We want you to run your business by the numbers to increase profitability and work more on your business rather than in it. So if you would like to know more about that, I will be in the booth for a little while, but you can also come see us at joinebs.com/inventory-lab. I appreciate you and thank you for having me here today. Let's see if we have any questions going on. We have questions. Okay, let's see what the questions are. What would I do to recommend these big mistakes before they happen? Well, part of it is knowing what you're looking for, right? And knowing that what the mistakes are so that you're able to um, avoid them. If you don't know what the mistakes are, they're difficult to avoid. So I think just by learning what some of the mistakes are, that will help you to avoid them in the future. Do I think a VA is always needed in a business, no matter how big or small? I think a VA is needed in your business if you want to have time freedom for yourself, right? You may have a small business, but unless you want to do everything that's required, you have to have someone else who can help you. So in that respect, I do think that a VA is necessary no matter what size your business is, because it helps you have some time freedom on your own to do the things you want to do while your business is being continued for you with your virtual assistant. Okay, I think that's all the questions we have. Well, I appreciate you all. Thank you for being here. And again, congratulations to InventoryLab for being here for 10 years, which is a really big deal in this industry. And I think I've been with them for almost that long. So, as a customer, right? I've been using InventoryLab for almost that long. So I really do appreciate them as well.